The small repair shop sat at the edge of Crossroads Station, tucked between a crystalline food vendor and an abandoned cargo bay. The sign above the door read, "Webb's Repairs," in faded letters. Inside, Marcus Webb worked quietly, his human hands moving with practiced precision over the damaged thruster core of a freight ship. Marcus was not a tall man, nor was he particularly strong by human standards. His brown hair had started to gray at the temples, and his face carried lines that spoke of sleepless nights. But his hands never trembled, and his eyes never missed a detail. He had been fixing things on this station for 3 years now, and he preferred it that way. Quiet, simple, forgotten. The door chimed as a customer entered. Marcus looked up from his work and froze for just a moment. The visitor was a dragon, one of the massive, scaled beings from the Draconis system. He stood nearly 8 feet tall, his crimson scales gleaming even in the workshop's dim light. Ceremonial armor covered his chest, but the metal was scorched and dented. "Are you the mechanic?" the dragon asked, his voice deep and rumbling like distant thunder. Marcus wiped his hands on a cloth and nodded. The dragon gestured to his armor. "This piece saved my life in the Void conflicts. I wish to have it restored before the memorial ceremony next month. Others said, you are the best metal worker in this sector." Marcus studied the armor carefully. The damage was extensive, but repairable. "I can do it. Will take about a week. Fair price." "Excellent. I am Sergeant Vraxthar, formerly of the 3rd Talon Division." The dragon extended a clawed hand, and Marcus shook it firmly. Despite the size difference, Marcus showed no fear. As Marcus began examining the armor more closely, Vraxthar's golden eyes wandered around the workshop. The space was clean and organized, with tools hanging in precise rows. But there was something unusual about some of those tools. They were old, military grade, by the look of them, the kind issued to combat support teams during the war. "You served?" Vraxthar asked casually. Marcus's hands paused for only a heartbeat before continuing their work. "Many of us are trying to build different lives now," Vraxthar said, watching the human carefully. "The war took much from all species." Marcus simply nodded and continued his inspection. He pointed out the repairs needed, quoted a price that Vraxthar found more than fair, and accepted a deposit. The dragon left, promising to return in a week. For the next several days, Marcus worked on the ceremonial armor with the same quiet dedication he brought to every task. He carefully hammered out dents, re-welded broken joints, and polished the metal until it gleamed like new. The work was meditative, keeping his mind occupied and his memories at bay. On the 5th day, while reaching for a specialized welding tool, Marcus accidentally triggered a hidden panel in his workbench. A small compartment slid open with a soft click. Marcus's face went pale. He had meant to seal that space permanently years ago. At that exact moment, Vraxthar entered the shop early, hoping to check on the progress. His sharp dragon eyes caught the open compartment and the items within before Marcus could close it. Inside were things Marcus had tried to forget. A medic's badge from the Terran Medical Corps, a repair specialist's toolkit with the Galactic Alliance seal, and several commendation notices still in their sealed envelopes. But what caught Vraxthar's attention was a single piece of official documentation, partially visible beneath the others. "What is that?" Vraxthar asked, his voice gentle but curious. "Nothing important," Marcus said quickly, closing the compartment. "Just old paperwork." But Vraxthar had already seen enough. The document bore the seal of the Alliance High Command, and the words, "Sword of Valor," were clearly visible. That was the highest honor given to non-combatant personnel during the war. It was awarded to only 17 beings, across all species, those who had saved more than 1,000 lives through their actions. "Marcus Webb," Vraxthar said slowly, his eyes widening. You are that Marcus Webb? The field medic from the Void conflicts? Marcus turned back to the armor, his jaw tight. That is not all, Vraxthar insisted, his voice rising with excitement and respect. The stories spread through all the combat units. The human who worked behind enemy lines. The one who could repair life support systems with spare parts and wire. The medic who saved entire transport ships when everyone thought they were lost. Marcus's hands gripped the edge of his workbench. Stories get exaggerated. Do they? Vraxthar moved closer, his voice softer now. That notice mentioned coordinates. Coordinates to where your Sword of Valor awaits collection. Why have you never claimed it? The workshop fell silent except for the soft hum of cooling equipment. Marcus stared at the armor before him, not meeting Vraxthar's eyes. Because metals don't bring people back, Marcus finally said, his voice barely above a whisper. They don't undo the choices we made. They don't fix what's broken. Vraxthar studied the human before him, this small, quiet man who fixed broken things in a forgotten corner of the galaxy. This hero who saved thousands, but could not forgive himself for something. The dragon's military training had taught him to recognize trauma when he saw it. Perhaps not, Vraxthar said gently. But they honor the lives that were saved. And those lives matter. Marcus Webb. Marcus said nothing. He simply returned to polishing the armor, his hands steady despite the storm of memories swirling in his mind. Vraxthar watched him work for a long moment, then quietly left the shop. But the dragon's mind was already forming a plan. Marcus Webb had saved countless lives during the war. Now perhaps someone could return the favor and save Marcus from the shadows he had chosen to hide within. 2 days later, Vraxthar returned to the repair shop. The ceremonial armor was finished, gleaming like molten rubies in the afternoon light. Marcus had outdone himself, every dent was gone, every scratch erased, and the metal looked as perfect as the day it was forged. Magnificent work, Vraxthar said, running a claw gently across the restored surface. You have a true gift, Marcus Webb. Marcus nodded, accepting the compliment with a small smile. Just doing my job. That'll be the balance we agreed on. Vraxthar paid without hesitation, but he made no move to leave. Instead, he carefully set the armor down and turned to face Marcus directly. I have spent the last 2 days researching, the dragon said. The public records from the war. They tell an interesting story about a human named Marcus Webb. Marcus's smile faded. Vraxthar, please. You saved 217 dragons. Vraxthar continued, his voice thick with emotion. Across 14 different incidents. You repaired life support systems on damaged ships. You fixed medical equipment during combat operations. You kept power running in field hospitals when everyone else said it was impossible. I was just a mechanic, Marcus said quietly, turning away. I fixed things. That's what mechanics do. You were more than that. Vraxthar moved closer, his large form somehow gentle in the small space. You worked in the most dangerous zones, behind enemy lines, in collapsed stations, on ships that were falling apart, and you did it without weapons, without armor, with only your tools and your mind. Marcus leaned against his workbench, his shoulders sagging. Why are you doing this? Why dig up the past? Because I need to understand, Vraxthar said. A hero who saved over 1,000 lives across all species should be celebrated. Yet you hide here, alone, refusing even to claim the honor you earned. Why, Marcus? What happened? For a long moment, Marcus said nothing. The workshop was silent, except for the distant hum of the station's life support systems. Finally, Marcus spoke, his voice heavy with old pain. The last day of the war, he began. I was on Station Terminus 9, near the front lines. The fighting was brutal. Both sides were exhausted. We all knew it had to end soon, but no one knew how. Vraxthar listened without interrupting, sensing that Marcus needed to tell this story at his own pace. I received 2 emergency calls at the same time. Marcus continued. The first was from a damaged transport ship. 47 wounded soldiers, humans, dragons, crystallines, all species. Their life support was failing. They needed repairs within the hour, or they would all die. Marcus's hands gripped the edge of the workbench, his knuckles turning white. The second call was from the command center. The communications array was damaged. Both sides wanted to negotiate peace, but they couldn't establish secure channels for the talks. The array could be fixed, but it would take time. Time I didn't have if I was going to save the transport. Vraxthar's breath caught. He understood now where this story was leading. I had to choose, Marcus said, his voice breaking. 47 lives I could see, could touch, could save, or thousands of lives that might be saved if the war ended. Maybe tens of thousands. Maybe hundreds of thousands. But it was just a maybe. Nothing was certain. Every marking, 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 marking. You chose the communications array, Vraxthar said softly. Marcus nodded, tears forming in his eyes. I fixed it. The peace talks happened. The war ended that day. But by the time I reached the transport, he stopped, unable to continue. They were gone, Vraxthar finished gently. All 47 of them, Marcus whispered, including my best friend, David Chen. He was on that transport. He was counting on me to save him, like I had saved him twice before. But I chose strangers over him. I chose numbers over people I knew. The workshop fell silent again. Vraxthar understood trauma. He had seen it in countless soldiers after the war. But this was different. Marcus had made an impossible choice, one that no being should ever have to make. The war ended because of you, Vraxthar said carefully. How many lives were saved because the fighting stopped? The analysts say around 200,000, Marcus replied bitterly. They give me numbers like that's supposed to make it better. Like mathematics can erase 47 faces from my memory. I am not trying to erase anything, Vraxthar said. But Marcus, I need to tell you something. Something you do not know. Marcus looked up, confused. 6 years ago, during the Battle of Crimson Nebula, my transport was hit. Vraxthar began. Life support, failing. Power systems, offline. 200 dragons aboard, including myself, and we were drifting in dead space. The medics said we had maybe 30 minutes before the oxygen ran out. Vraxthar's voice grew stronger, more intense. Then a human appeared. He climbed through damaged corridors, carrying only a toolkit. He worked faster than anyone I had ever seen. He bypassed broken systems, rerouted power from emergency batteries, and got our life support running with 15 minutes to spare. He saved all 200 of us. Marcus stared at the dragon, his eyes widening. That human was you, Marcus Webb, Vraxthar said, his voice filled with reverence. I was one of the dragons on that transport. You saved my life. You saved all our lives. And because you saved us, we were able to participate in the final battles that pushed for peace. We were there because you kept us alive. Marcus's legs suddenly felt weak. He had saved so many people during the war that individual incidents blurred together in his memory. I have carried your name in my heart for 6 years, Vraxthar continued. When I learned you were here, I had to meet you. I had to thank the being who gave me a second chance at life. And now, I understand why you hide. But Marcus, those 47 soldiers, their sacrifice was not your fault. You made the choice that saved my life. That saved countless others. But David, Marcus started, would he want you to waste your gift hiding in shadows? Vraxthar asked gently. Would he want the man who saved thousands to stop saving people? Marcus had no answer. He simply stood there, tears streaming down his face, while the dragon, who he had saved years ago, waited patiently for him to process everything. 3 days passed before Marcus gave Vraxthar an answer. The dragon had returned each morning, not pushing, just sitting quietly in the workshop while Marcus worked. On the 3rd day, Marcus finally spoke. "The memorial ceremony," Marcus said, not looking up from the engine he was repairing. "When is it?" 3 weeks from now," Vraxthar replied. "At Memorial Station Alpha, near the coordinates where your Sword of Valor waits." Marcus set down his tools and took a deep breath. If I claim that sword, I need to do something first. I need to visit the families of those 47 soldiers. I need to apologize. Many of them will be at the ceremony," Vraxthar said gently. "The memorial honors all who fell in the final days of the war. But Marcus, you owe them no apology. You gave them the peace they fought for." "I still need to face them," Marcus insisted. "Will you come with me? I don't think I can do this alone." Vraxthar stood and placed a large clawed hand on Marcus's shoulder. "I would be honored to travel with you, my friend." 2 days later, they departed Crossroads Station on Vraxthar's personal ship. It was a small vessel, built for comfort rather than speed. As they traveled through space, Marcus found himself talking more than he had in years. Vraxthar was a patient listener, never judging, always understanding. Their first stop was Gateway Colony, a bustling station where many war veterans had settled. Vraxthar had sent messages ahead, and word had spread quickly. When they arrived, Marcus was shocked to find a small crowd waiting at the docking bay. "What is this?" Marcus asked nervously. "People who want to meet you," Vraxthar said simply. An elderly crystalline being stepped forward, her translucent body shimmering with emotion. "Marcus Webb, I am Engineer Talissa. You repaired my colony ship during the evacuation of Theta Station. 3,000 civilians were aboard. Without your work, we would have all perished in the void." Marcus barely remembered the incident. It had been one repair among hundreds. But Talissa remembered every detail. She now ran a hospital on Gateway Colony, using the second chance Marcus had given her to save others. Next came a nomad pilot, his 4 arms gesturing excitedly. "You fixed my life support with spare parts from a coffee maker and a sensor array. Impossible repair," everyone said, "but you did it anyway. I now evacuate refugees from conflict zones. Last year alone, I saved 500 people. One by one, beings of different species came forward. Each had a story. Each had been saved by Marcus during the war, and each was using their second chance to make the galaxy better." Marcus felt overwhelmed. He had spent 3 years trying to forget, trying to hide from his past. But his past had created ripples he never imagined. Every person he saved had gone on to save others. His actions had multiplied across the years like stars spreading light through darkness. "I never knew," Marcus whispered to Vraxthar as they left the station. "I never followed up. I just moved to the next emergency, the next repair." "That is because you are humble," Vraxthar said. "You did not save people for glory. You saved them because it was right." Their journey continued. At each stop, Marcus encountered more people whose lives he had touched. A doctor who now trained other doctors. A teacher whose students included war orphans. An engineer who designed safer ships based on the improvised repairs Marcus had taught him during combat. The stories began to heal something broken inside Marcus. He started to see that his impossible choice on that final day had meaning. The peace he helped create had allowed all these people to flourish, to build, to save others in turn. But then came the test. They were 2 days from Memorial Station Alpha when Vraxthar's ship received a distress signal. A civilian transport was under attack by space pirates. The transport carried families traveling to the memorial ceremony, relatives of soldiers from both sides of the old war, coming together to honor their fallen loved ones. "We should help," Vraxthar said, already changing course. Marcus froze. His hands trembled. "I'm not a soldier. I can't fight." "Neither am I, anymore," Vraxthar replied. "But we cannot ignore people in need. That transport has no weapons, no defenses. If we do nothing, they will be boarded and robbed. People may be hurt." Marcus felt the old fear rising. What if he made the wrong choice again? What if someone got hurt because of his actions? But then he remembered Talissa's hospital. He remembered the Nomad pilot's rescue missions. He remembered all the good that had come from the choices he made during the war. "What can we do?" Marcus asked, his voice steadier. Vraxthar smiled, a fearsome sight with all those sharp teeth. But Marcus understood it as pride. "We have your tools and my combat experience. Let us see what we can create together." As they approached the scene, Marcus's mind began working. The pirate ships were old models. He recognized their designs. Vraxthar's ship had mining lasers and civilian-grade shields. The transport had basic systems but no weapons. "Can you contact the transport?" Marcus asked. "Yes, encrypted channel." "Good. Tell them to transfer all non-essential power to their shields. I'm going to jury-rig our mining lasers to overload the pirates' sensor arrays. We don't need to hurt anyone. We just need to blind them and scare them off." Vraxthar's eyes gleamed with understanding. "And while they are blind and confused, the transport runs, we cover their escape, and everyone goes home safely," Marcus finished. It was risky. It required perfect timing. But as Marcus's hands flew over the control panels, rewiring systems and rerouting power, he felt something he had not felt in 3 years. He felt alive. "Ready?" Marcus asked. "Ready," Vraxthar confirmed, positioning the ship. "Then let's show these pirates what a mechanic and a dragon can do together," Marcus said with a determined smile. Marcus's fingers danced across the control panel with the same precision he brought to every repair. Wires were rerouted, power flows redirected, and within minutes, their mining lasers had been transformed into something new. Not weapons, but tools of disruption. "The pirates are closing on the transport," Vraxthar reported, his eyes fixed on the scanner. 3 small ships. They are demanding the transport power down its engines. "How long until they're in range?" Marcus asked, sweat beading on his forehead. 2 minutes. Marcus worked faster. His mind calculated angles, power outputs, and timing with the same clarity that had saved thousands during the war. This was what he was good at, finding solutions when everyone else saw only problems. "Transport is responding to our instructions," Vraxthar said. "They are transferring all non-essential power to shields, but they are frightened. They have children aboard." Marcus's jaw tightened. Children. Families coming to honor their lost loved ones. People who deserved to arrive safely, to grieve in peace, to celebrate the peace that so many had sacrificed to achieve. "We won't let anything happen to them," Marcus said firmly. "Vraxthar, when I give the signal, fire the modified lasers at these exact coordinates." He transferred the targeting data to the dragon's display. "These coordinates are empty space," Vraxthar observed, confused. "Trust me," Marcus replied. "The sensor disruption will bounce off the transport's shields and hit all 3 pirate ships at once. They'll be blind for at least 90 seconds. That's our window." "Brilliant," Vraxthar breathed. "You are using the transport's own shields as a reflector." 60 seconds, Marcus counted down. His heart pounded, but his hands remained steady. This was just another repair, another problem to solve. Except this time, he wasn't working alone in some damaged station. He had Vraxthar beside him, a friend who trusted his skills completely. The pirate ships moved into position, surrounding the transport like predators circling prey. Marcus watched the scanner, calculating, adjusting his modifications, one last time. 30 seconds. The lead pirate ship sent another message to the transport, threatening to disable their engines if they didn't comply immediately. The families aboard must be terrified, Marcus thought. But they wouldn't be harmed. Not today. Not while he could prevent it. 10 seconds. Vraxthar, be ready. Ready. The dragon confirmed, his claws hovering over the firing controls. Marcus counted down in his head. Now, Vraxthar fired. The modified mining lasers shot toward the empty coordinates Marcus had calculated. The beams struck the transport's shields at precisely the right angle, refracting and splitting into multiple streams of energy that cascaded outward like ripples on water. All three pirate ships were engulfed simultaneously in waves of sensor-scrambling energy. Their displays went dark. Their targeting systems failed. Their communications crackled with static. "It worked," Vraxthar exclaimed. "Transport. Run. Full speed toward Memorial Station Alpha. We will cover your retreat." The transport didn't hesitate. Its engines flared to life, and it shot forward, breaking through the confusion of the blinded pirate ships. But Marcus wasn't finished. "Vraxthar, position us between the transport and the pirates. When their sensors come back online, I want them to see us first. That will put us in danger," Vraxthar pointed out, though he was already maneuvering the ship into position. "That's the idea," Marcus said, his fingers flying across another panel. "I'm redirecting all our power to shields and engines. We don't need weapons, we just need to be scary enough that they think twice about pursuing." Vraxthar laughed, a deep rumbling sound. "You are a genius, Marcus Webb. A terrifying, clever genius." 60 seconds passed. Then 70. The pirate ship's sensors began to flicker back online. When their displays cleared, they found themselves facing Vraxthar's ship, shields at maximum, positioned defensively, and broadcasting on all frequencies. Marcus had recorded a message, his voice calm but firm. "This is Marcus Webb, formerly of the Terran Medical Corps, Allied Forces. The transport you were pursuing carries families of war veterans traveling to a memorial ceremony. Turn back now, or face consequences." It was a bluff. They had no real weapons, but the pirates didn't know that. What they saw was a ship that had just disabled all three of their vessels simultaneously with technology they didn't understand, commanded by someone whose name carried weight from the war. The pirate ships hesitated. Then, one by one, they turned and fled in different directions. "They are retreating," Vraxthar announced triumphantly. "We did it, Marcus. Without hurting anyone, we did it." Marcus slumped back in his chair, exhausted but satisfied. His hands were shaking now that the danger had passed, but it was different from the trembling of fear. This was the aftermath of action, of choosing to help instead of hide. "Contact the transport," Marcus said. "Make sure everyone is okay." The transport captain's face appeared on the screen, a middle-aged human woman, with tears of relief in her eyes. "Thank you. Thank you so much. You saved us all. We have 43 people aboard, including 12 children. If you hadn't intervened, you're safe now." Marcus interrupted gently. "That's what matters. Continue to Memorial Station Alpha. We'll escort you the rest of the way." As they traveled together, the transport captain shared more information. Many of the families aboard were relatives of soldiers who had died in the final days of the war. Some had lost loved ones on that transport Marcus had been unable to save. They were traveling to the memorial to honor their sacrifice and to witness the presentation of the Sword of Valor to Marcus Webb. Marcus's breath caught in his throat. "They know about me?" "Oh, everyone knows about you," the captain replied. "You are a legend, Mr. Webb, the man who saved thousands. The hero who ended the war. After the call ended, Marcus sat in silence. Vraxthar gave him space, understanding that his friend needed time to process everything. Finally, Marcus spoke. I was so focused on the 47 I couldn't save that I forgot about all the others. The ones who lived because the war ended. The families who stayed together. The children who grew up in peace. You are ready now, Vraxthar said quietly. Ready to face your past. Ready to accept what you accomplished. Marcus nodded slowly. I think I am. But Vraxthar, when we get to the memorial, I want to do something. Something important. What is that? I want the names of those 47 soldiers engraved on my sword, Marcus said, his voice steady and clear. I want to carry their memory with me. Not as guilt, but as a reminder that every choice matters. That every life matters. Vraxthar smiled and placed a hand on his friend's shoulder. That is a perfect way to honor them, Marcus, and I will be proud to stand beside you when you claim your sword. Together, the mechanic and the dragon continued toward Memorial Station Alpha, where hundreds of people waited to honor the hero who had finally stepped out of the shadows. Memorial Station Alpha floated in space like a monument to peace itself. The station had been built after the war, designed as a place where all species could gather to remember those who fell and celebrate the unity that emerged from conflict. Its walls were made of transparent materials that revealed the stars beyond a reminder that the galaxy belonged to everyone. Marcus felt his heart racing as Vraxthar's ship approached the docking bay. The transport they had rescued was already there. And as Marcus stepped onto the station, he was greeted by something he never expected. Hundreds of beings filled the main hall. Dragons stood beside humans. Crystallines mingled with nomads. Species that had once been enemies now gathered together in peace. And they were all waiting for him. Marcus Webb! Someone shouted. And suddenly, the crowd erupted in applause. Marcus stood frozen, overwhelmed. Vraxthar gently guided him forward through the sea of people. Faces smiled at him. Hands reached out to touch his shoulder in respect. Some beings had tears in their eyes. At the center of the hall stood a platform where military leaders from all species waited. Admiral Chen, a human woman with silver hair, stepped forward. Marcus recognized the name. She was David's sister, his best friend's family. His legs nearly gave out, but Vraxthar steadied him. Marcus Webb, Admiral Chen said, her voice carrying through the hall. On behalf of the Galactic Alliance, we gather here today to present you with the Sword of Valor, the highest honor awarded to non-combatant personnel. Your actions during the Void conflicts saved 1,247 lives across all species. The crowd fell silent as she continued. You worked in the most dangerous conditions. You repaired systems that experts said were beyond saving. You gave hope when hope seemed lost. You are a hero to every being in this galaxy. A massive case was brought forward, and inside, it lay the Sword of Valor. It was not meant for combat. It was purely ceremonial, a symbol of honor. The blade gleamed with inscriptions from all the major species, words of gratitude and respect etched into the metal. But before Admiral Chen could present it, Marcus raised his hand. Wait, he said, his voice shaking. Before I accept this, I need to say something. And I need to ask for something. The hall grew even quieter. Every eye turned to Marcus. I don't deserve to be called a hero, Marcus began, and murmurs of disagreement rippled through the crowd. He raised his hand again. Please, let me finish. I made a choice. On the last day of the war. A choice that haunted me for 3 years. A choice that cost 47 lives, including my best friend, David Chen. Admiral Chen's expression softened with understanding. I chose to repair the communications array instead of saving the transport they were on. Marcus continued, tears streaming down his face. I chose numbers over people I knew. and I ran away because I couldn't face what I had done. I hid in the shadows, fixing small things, trying to forget. He looked around at all the faces watching him, but Sergeant Vraxthar found me. He made me see that my choice, as painful as it was, saved thousands more lives. The war ended because of that choice. Peace came because of that choice. And all of you, every person in this hall, you are alive today because the fighting stopped when it did. Marcus's voice grew stronger, more certain. I cannot change what happened. I cannot bring back those 47 soldiers, but I can honor their sacrifice by acknowledging it. So, I have a request. Before I accept this sword, I want their names engraved on the blade, every single one of them. I want to carry their memory with me, not as a burden of guilt, but as a reminder that every life matters, that every choice has weight, and that sometimes the hardest choices lead to the greatest good. The hall erupted in applause again. But this time, Marcus also heard something else. The sound of people crying, not from sadness, but from understanding and healing. Admiral Chen stepped forward and embraced Marcus. My brother David would be so proud of you, she whispered. He wrote letters about you, about how you never gave up, never stopped trying to save people. He knew the risks. We all did. And he would want you to know that his sacrifice meant something. She pulled back and addressed the crowd. Marcus Webb's request will be granted. The names of all 47 soldiers will be engraved on this blade. They will be remembered forever alongside the lives Marcus saved. The ceremony continued. Each military leader from each species spoke about Marcus's contributions. Stories were shared. Some Marcus remembered, others he had forgotten. The crystalline engineer Talissa spoke about her hospital. The nomad pilot described his rescue missions. One by one, people Marcus had saved during the war stood and shared how they were using their second chance to make the galaxy better. Finally, the Sword of Valor was presented to Marcus, now carrying the names of those who fell. As he held it, Marcus felt something shift inside him. The weight of guilt began to transform into purpose. I accept this sword, Marcus said, not as a reward, but as a responsibility. A responsibility to keep helping people, to keep using my skills to make things better, to honor both the living and the dead by never hiding again. After the ceremony, Vraxthar approached with news. The Galactic Academy has heard about your rescue of the transport yesterday. They want to offer you a teaching position. They need someone to train new mechanics and medics, someone who can teach not just technical skills, but wisdom about making difficult choices. Marcus looked at the sword in his hands, at the names etched on its blade, at the crowd of people he had saved, and the families he had once feared to face. I accept, he said, on one condition. What condition? Vraxthar asked. That you teach with me? Marcus replied with a smile. A mechanic and a dragon, working together to train the next generation, showing them that peace is built by beings from all species, working side by side. Vraxthar's eyes sparkled with joy. I would be honored, my friend. Weeks later, Marcus opened his new workshop at the Galactic Academy. The Sword of Valor hung on the wall behind his desk, visible to all who entered. Students from every species came to learn from the legend who had saved thousands. But Marcus never called himself a hero. Instead, he taught his students about compassion, about making hard choices, about living with the consequences of those choices, and about finding the courage to keep helping others even after failure. And every day, before classes began, Marcus would look at the 47 names on his sword and whisper a promise. I will make your sacrifice mean something. Every person I teach, every life they save, it will all honor your memory. The shadow had finally stepped into the light, and in that light, Marcus Webb discovered that redemption was not about erasing the past, but about building a better future while carrying the lessons of yesterday. The mechanic, who once worked alone in forgotten corners of the galaxy, now stood surrounded by students, friends, and purpose. He had claimed his sword. He had faced his guilt. And he had learned the most important lesson of all. True heroism was not about being perfect. It was about choosing to help, even when the cost was high. It was about getting back up after falling. It was about turning pain into purpose and loss into legacy. Marcus Webb was finally home.